Gentlemen, can you hear me?
Can now.
I can hear you, Bob. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right, so you got the Northern Lights behind you.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. Well, first of all, welcome to Canada's boxing channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Special guests today at sort of short notice or last minute. We've got Andy from Andy's Cavern. Make sure you like and subscribe to Andy's Cavern. We've got Jamie from Porky's Corner, amongst other places. And hopefully we've got Jerry. I don't see Jerry yet. Jerry, are you there?
I am.
Jerry, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. How's things, Bob?
Good, thank you. So we've got the second edition, if you like, of the Porky's Angels show. And I thought, to quote Carl Froch, I should say, let's address the elephant in the room. But of course, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite tattoos are. I'm going to ask you, why do you think Carl the Cobra Froch interviewed Connor Benn and did not even mention anything to do with drug use? Jamie, why don't you take us away on this?
I'm going to take you away on it. I think he's a man who hasn't got as many morals or as much integrity as we originally may have thought. He's a man who's obviously very, very keen on money, because I don't really understand how a millionaire with, he's got at least 80,000 fans, hasn't he? Because I was in attendance that night and he likes to talk to us and go on about it constantly. He's got adulation, he's got fans, he's got money in the bank, he's got a beautiful wife, but he's got no fucking integrity. And I edited myself out there, Bob, but I find it incredibly, incredibly annoying. He might as well have been making love to Connor Benn today when that was released. And the only thing I can think of is greed, really. The Saudis have given him a little tickle. And they've said to him, you come on in, but just edit it yourself. Make sure that you don't say anything untoward, anything controversial, and we'll look after your son. So greed is the only reason I can foresee that he has verbally made love to Connor Benn. It's ridiculous.
It was pretty shocking. I'm not saying I'm surprised, but I was disappointed. Andy, over in Scotland, or maybe you're actually in England today. I'm not sure. I know you're on the road. What's your take on this?
Big disappointment. I thought more of him than that. I think we all suspected this. It's taken so long to come out. Well, I think it's just what we expected. I don't actually think it's a big surprise, but it is a big disappointment. I've made a short myself for my channel. I've not put it out yet, but as I say on that, if I wasn't allowed to ask the questions, if I was in his position and wasn't allowed to ask these questions, I wouldn't have done the interview, because my credibility and integrity is worth more than putting out a crap interview. 12 rounds of nothing, basically, wasn't it? 12 rounds of what? What was it?
It was the equivalent of Carlos Delay on Johnny Nelson, wasn't it, Andy?
The Carlos Delay and Johnny Nelson off interviews, yeah, no, it was just...
Well, I mean, one of the questions that he asked Connor Benn is, who are your favorite fighters? And Connor Benn said something like, well, you are, Carl. And it was, and no judgment here, but it seemed like a bromance. I was thinking that maybe it was going to switch into Brokeback Mountain pretty quickly there.
You hate lending money your horses, Bob. But and I think he asked him who did he think would win between Nigel Benn and him, because he's not going to go against his dad, is he? But,
no.
Personally, I think Froch would have hammered Nigel Benn. That's just my opinion. I think Froch was a far tougher. Nigel Benn was a bit chinny at times, wasn't he? He could get rocked by folk you didn't expect to rock him. No, I think the whole thing was, it was it looked like it was in an empty warehouse, and it was an empty interview. The kind of background kind of echoed what it was all about. It was just empty. There was no substance to it at all. It was just a box ticking exercise. He's interviewed him, and nothing. You could have had 15 rounds of nothing probably as well, it's still never going to ask. Maybe they need a rematch for all the real questions to be asked, but that's never going to happen, is it? It's just a PR stunt. That's all it is, PR stunt.
What was amazing to me is how many views it had. It had like 60,000 views when I was looking at it. And I mean, if I didn't have a boxing channel and I would have to comment on this, I would have switched it off after the first minute.
Yeah.
What is Jerry? What do you think of all this? I know that you're a big Connor Benn fan. What's your thinking of this, Jerry?
So, as everybody has pretty much said, it's no surprise, right? So that's one aspect of it. So when you actually forwarded the link on to me earlier, I obviously began watching it. I was a little shocked at how somebody can maybe fill us in the comments, but they seemed like they met before. They seemed like they were best friends. I wasn't aware of any of that kind of relationship. I thought that was very strange. And then obviously when we get to the meat and potatoes, they were the shittest portion of meat and potatoes you've ever been served in your life. You got a piece of mutton and half a potato, and it tastes like shite. That's my analogy. So basically, the questions were, that could be considered a serious probing interview. That was a back patting exercise, which is very, very strange because Carl Froch set out his stall on his channel like a man who was going to, he had nothing to lose. He'd made his money, no worries. He can ask whatever he wants, and really sold himself as that sort of a guy. And well, what's happened? Is the picture gone like fuzzy? I don't know what's going on, because I certainly don't get that impression from him now. The tone of his videos seems to have changed, and it almost seems like he's got his feet under the blanket now, and it's just he's just starting to fall into line with the rest of the bullshit media that we have, who are basically stooges for all the powers that be in boxing, and don't criticize anything properly or question anything properly, and are PR agents. One thing I have to say just before I finish, you said about the views, Bob. That's obviously Carl has a big reach. What's very, very interesting and important and significant is, did you read the amount of people who mentioned Porky's coming for you?
Yes, I did.
It was incredible. It was incredible, lad. So that's me. That's all I'm going to say.
No, that's a great point you made. I think that Russ on Porky's Corner has reached a lot of people, because many comments and also many likes, little hit the thumb, were saying that they were expecting Porky to be roasting him. I wouldn't be surprised if Porky's Corner is going to see a surge in subscriptions. He certainly deserves to see a surge in subscriptions, and I can't wait for Porky to go up one side and down the other on him, to be perfectly honest.
It's coming. It's just
a matter of time. Certainly is. Sorry, Andy, go
on. He's going after Peter Fury last week. Well, going after him. He's just telling him the way he sees it. He's telling it as it is. And many people have criticised him for not doing that sooner. with Huey's career. So he's not going to head back on the Cobra. I think he said that. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Actually, it'll be one of the best Porky's episodes that I think any of us will have seen for a while.
I think you could be right, Bob.
I'm very happy to take one for the team. I want him to. I want Russ to send out an invite to Nigel. Keep saying Nigel Benn. I don't want to give him that credit. Connor Benn, and I will interview him on behalf of the team, because the F bombs, the C bombs, everything will come out, and it'll be car crash television. But I think it'd be worth watching.
Yeah, it would be brilliant.
I'd watch it.
But what do we really think has happened to Carl Froch? I mean, he started off, and he was highly critical of the Saudi experience. He was critical of the lack of atmosphere, and then he went out to Saudi. Do you think his eyes were opened, or do you think his wallet was stuffed?
Do you want to go first?
I've alluded to that. I just think it's an issue of greed, because like I said, it can't be anything else. He's got at least 80,000 fans, and all right, he's a big boxing YouTube channel. But if you had 80,000 subscribers, you'd be quite happy, wouldn't you, Bob? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's not a fans issue. Yeah, it's not a fans issue. It's not a money issue, because he's made plenty of money. As I say, his wife is absolutely gorgeous. She was one of FHM's most beautiful women in the world at one point. So, the only thing is, no, it is a money issue. I said it wasn't. It is a money issue. That's the only thing that could be opening his eyes. Either that, or, they've turned around and said, look, well, you come over here unsolicited, we'll cut your hands off. So you be nice to us, or you're going to get an horse's head in your bed. So it's one of two things, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's really surprising and I think disappointing. I've been a fan of Carl Froch since he started fighting, and I've always thought of him as a person who was a sort of a stand-up guy, and I'm not saying that he isn't now, but it's certainly his recent behavior. Like I say, it's just disappointing. It's not what I was hoping to see from a person of his stature, influence, and resources.
Yeah, I've actually met Carl and his wife. They're just lovely people. So I'm maybe even more disappointed because I've met him and I thought he was a sound guy, And as I say, he's got probably one of the leanest boxing resumes. When I say that, I mean he's not got a padded record. His record's really lean. He's always fought. He's never had any gimme fights for the majority of his career. I mean, you're a statistician, Bob. You could probably tell us how good that is. Statistician, is it? Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah, that's the right one. And yes, right. You're right. I mean, Carl Froch didn't fight anybody who was superfluous. There's no tomato cans or anything like that on Carl's record.
No.
So again, disappointing. Just we like to think of our sporting idols as something, and then when they're shown to be not, we're all sort of bummed out a bit, aren't we?
Do you think it's as disappointing, Bob, as Jersey Joe Walcott's refereeing performance in Ali Liston too?
That's about right. Yes. Yeah. So
great fighter, but not a great referee. Great fighter, but not a great referee.
That's about it. And it wasn't like his first refereeing either. He'd actually, refereed Patterson fights and everything.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe we should now talk about the toothless Cobra, I suppose, or maybe his fangs have been blunted or something. But yeah, it's.
Do you think it's a valid question to think he's maybe been got at? I'm being serious, like.
Well, Andy, let me just jump in there. This is what I was about to bring up next. So, do you remember the interview with Turkey Al-Sheikh?
Yeah.
So, the first thing, Carl starts trying to ask him a question, and then Turkey goes, interrupts him and doesn't ask the question. In fact, that was a turning point for a lot of people on the Cobra's reputation in terms of his attitude on his YouTube channel. Turkey Ellis Sheik goes, why do you criticize us? Blah, 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 all this type of stuff. Do you think he's been got at? Hell yeah. Definitely, 100%.
Think you had a gun pointing at me that interview?
Who knows? Who knows?
We don't know, do it?
No.
But when you say got at, Jerry, do you mean in the gangsterism sense of the term or money-wise?
Andy said it first. I'm just using his phrase because, got at some way or other. Yeah, it could. Yeah. That's open to interpretation. But all I remember from that interview was Froch being walked over. The interview was led by Turkey. He asked his own or answered his own questions, didn't follow the script, and Carl Froch seemed sheepish and nervous to me.
Yeah.
Make of that what you will, but that's all I'll say.
That's actually.
I might revisit that interview actually just to watch it again. To refresh myself.
It's an interesting point that Jerry makes. I mean, the reach of the Saudi influence is certainly far and wide, and one doesn't know what sort of form that influence would take, whether it would be, let's say, positive influence in a little bit of extra exposure, a little bit of extra gravy on your potatoes, or whether it would be negative in that something far more threatening. I mean, and I'm sure, one-on-one, Carl Froch is not an easy man to threaten, but there's lots of ways, lots of forms a threat can take. So it is possible, I suppose, that he could have been influenced in some way, either positively or negatively, and the Saudi reach is very far.
I would like to think that's not. I'd like to think that's not the case, but what are you supposed to think? He was putting it on folk when he started his channel up, and it's just all dipped down, isn't it? So
it's changed. Yeah, it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
So Andy, if you see any Saudi Arabian chaps coming up your garden path on Andy's cavern, I hope that you've managed to retain a shotgun or something from the grabbing hands of two-tier Keir.
I'll have to get extra security in, I think.
Yeah. What I'll say as well, chaps, did that interview riled me up that much? I actually unsubscribed. Not that Carl would give one solitary shite, but I'm not watching it anymore. There's just not many boxing channels out there with much credibility. And because I'm not, I don't know, I can't speak for all you chaps, but I think it becomes more difficult to enjoy boxing the older you get, because I can't idolize anyone anymore, because how can I idolize people that are younger than me? It's so you see things for what they are, and I've just unsubscribed now. Like the last bastion of hope in the sort of mainstream that Carl is, and he's just let us all down. So F him. Do you know what I mean?
Jamie, I unsubscribed ages ago, so you're not alone, mate.
No, there you go.
I don't think I ever did subscribe, but that's I can confirm, Jamie, that the older you get, it becomes actually, for me, impossible to idolize people. That's why I laugh if ever I'm called a fanboy. I say that my sporting idols are long time deceased.
But they'll always be your idols, Bob. They'll always remain your idols, no matter whether they're gone or not. So Jamie's probably reached the point in his life now where, Jamie, the idols that you had before, are they not still your idols? Most of mine are.
No. Do you know why? Because where I'd say worked is a loose term, really. I've worked in boxing, and I've been fortunate to meet all those idols. I've met Connor Benn. He was a bit of an arse. And now, I'm sat here chugging a beer, so I can't really comment, but I just see Ricky Hatton as a fat alcoholic, and it's just a disappointment. So, no, they're not my idols anymore, Jerry. They say don't
Well,
meet your heroes.
I meant generally, like I didn't mean just boxing. I just meant generally. 'Cause,
Oh,
I mean, I've got
yeah, I would. Yeah, I agree with you in the general sense of the term. If I'm being specific, the specific ones I'm thinking of, no, they're not my idols anymore. Nigel Benn got quite offended because I asked him. It was at one of those gentlemen's, like one of those where you meet and greet.
Yep.
And you got everyone asking the normal questions, or, if you and Eubank fought again, who'd win? And I just come
Joey
out
did
and said,
special.
yeah, just all that sort of stuff. And Tony Booth was there when I was there, the journeyman. And he was really, really drunk, and he was offering Nigel Benn outside for a fight. So it got a bit leery. And I asked a question. I said, this was a good few years ago, before I think the videos had really been seen. And I asked him, I said, I believe you sparred Roberto Duran in 1989. And he looked at me as if to go, this lad knows what he's on about. So I said, before I got to ask him the question, saying like you shared a ring with him, my question was going to be sort of what, in your experience, how much of the real Roberto Duran did he give you? How much was he toying with you in sparring? And before I could ask that question, he went, if you're going to ask me whether I think I could beat Roberto Duran, then don't bother asking me. It's disrespectful. You're disrespectful, and I won't be taking any more questions from you. And I
Wow.
thought, I paid 50 quid to get in here. Like, I didn't say that to him, but I thought that, and I thought, you're an arsehole, mate. I don't want to speak to you again.
No.
Get out of here.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah.
Did you ask for your money back, James?
No, I didn't. No, I was 20. It was the night after Pacquiao and Mayweather. So I was 20. Well, I was 25, and I don't think I was a man at that point. I know that's a bit odd, but maybe my arse went a little bit. But the Jamie now, I would have gone, yeah, give me my money back. Don't speak to me like that. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, fair
Give you a
enough.
slap.
Understandable, mate. That's understandable.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have said anything to him either, Jimmy. So
Exactly.
particularly when I was 25, right?
Yeah. I was just a shithouse. I was Carl Froch.
Well,
How do you think the Cobra's dealing with all this? All the feedback, the negative. He's going to be a tsunami of negative feedback on this interview. How
Yeah.
do you think that's going to affect him? Do you think he's going to kick himself and change his ways and try and do something to make up for it? I don't know.
I
just don't
doubt
know.
I doubt it. I'm also interested, by the way, in why that video was released today. I wonder, has it got anything to do with the ticket sales for the fight next weekend being quite poor, and that they're just trying to push as much talk about the fight as possible? I don't know.
Well, do you know what? That is. Sorry, Andy, go on.
According to Tony Bellew, there's 135,000 people sitting waiting to get tickets for an 80,000 stadium.
If that was the case, they would. Well, if that was the case, they would have booked out Wembley. But on that point, Bob, this is a point I was going to make. You'd think that, if that was the case and they needed to sell more numbers, they would have allowed Carl Froch. If he is being muzzled, they would have allowed him to sort of come out and be a bit more controversial. I don't really understand. And I sent a message to, we were talking about Russ before, I messaged Russ before about it, actually. And I said, I really don't understand what Connor Benn's got on the establishment, because he's not, and it sounds like sour grapes this, but he's not very talented, because he couldn't do anything without the juice. He obviously hasn't got the biggest reach, or as big a reach as he thinks he's got, because otherwise they'd be selling Wembley out, not struggling with Tottenham Hotspur. And I just don't understand what he's got. Like, yeah, it's a cash out exercise, but Eddie could have Eddie's wasted his time. He could have built up much more talented fighters. He could have signed Adam Azim and just actually be making decent money,
Yeah. Interesting. Jerry, you were going to say something. We've got about 2 minutes before we have to move to part 2 at Andy's Mobile Cavern.
Oh shit! I totally can't remember now.
Okay.
Sorry, Jerry.
Well, let's,
You're right,
We've
mate.
got a bit of time yet, Bob, I think, if not.
I'm showing 25. I like to keep it around 25, 26. It's a little easier for the uploads, but no, we can go
You're
for
the boss.
we can go for a wee while. But I was interested in what Jerry was going to say, and I think it was me that actually carried on speaking. So it's my fault that it's my fault that Jerry forgot.
Sorry. I'm relaxed now. I've forgotten stuff. Sorry, guys.
Well, yeah, I noticed you guys are all drinking, which is good. I'm very, very pleased to say, and I feel that this is an important point to make, that Jamie has not reintroduced the kebab, because that
I must say, and I mean this 100% serious. I had one earlier this evening. I got it out of the way before I come on.
Is that what's on your chin, Jamie? What's that on your
Yeah,
chin?
that's awesome. No, that's just fat. That's fat. Look.
Oh, that's real fat, not kebab fat. Okay.
Real pork. I'm a real porky, yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap this episode up, and we'll log on to Andy for part 2, and Andy can take over the responsibility of chairing and controlling us all.
Andy, Andy, I don't know if you've sent me a link, mate.
I'll sort that out.
Okay.
Better.
We'll see you guys on part 2. Please like, share, and
Okay.
subscribe to Canada's Boxing Channel and to Andy's Cavern, Andy's mobile cavern as well.
Mobile cavern, nah. We'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
See you on the other side.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.